What kind of job could they expect? What kind of role could they expect to be carrying out?
So yeah, so as you said, we've announced drone detection operative jobs.
Okay, so welcome to Andrew McQuillan of Crowded Space Drones. Obviously, the audience will know Andrew well from the live streams, interviews, and other features, and of course the new Drone Masterclass partnership as well, which is very exciting. How are you, Andrew?
I'm not too bad. Yourself?
I'm very good, thank you very much. I cannot complain.
Are you sober?
I am sober. Yes, there is no aviation gin anywhere near me. Viewers will know you well as someone that's obviously helped out with a lot of our content, which I appreciate, and obviously being one of the faces as well of the Drone Masterclass drone training service. There's a link in the description for anybody that wants their A2 COC or GVC courses. And today we're going to talk about your other business, Crowded Space Drones, which, amongst other things, offers a public safety service from the point of view of counter drone, essentially.
I think that's the first thing we ever talked about with you.
It was, yes, that's right, because we met firstly on Twitter.
I want to say July or August.
It was around then, yeah, and it was regarding your work at York Racecourse, assisting the local constabulary with counter UAS services, and it was the reason I looked into that one in particular was just how well it was being publicised, and the fact that Paul Beckwith, the officer who was he's
the lead drone officer for the police,
and just the way he was approaching the whole system of publicising the fact that we've approached many people that were flying against regulations, and we've advised, and we've done this, and it was that fantastic situation where people are getting educated rather than just thrown in jail or something, which is the headlines we see so much in other countries. When there's interactions with police and drones, and just that whole attitude gave me, especially at that point, last summer, where there were a lot of drone arrests happening in the US and that type of thing. There was a lot of those stories around. It was really refreshing to hear that kind of approach. And of course, that's when we then got in contact, because you were the company running on the counter drone side of things on behalf of the police at that event. And then we got chatting, and of course the interviews and the drunken live streams that have followed since. So it's all good fun.
I would very much I'd very much like to point out that you're inferring that everyone in the live stream was drunk. I mean, I would debate that.
Well, yeah.
Certain people were intoxicated.
Depends on which live stream and which subject was, and how good they were at hiding it. But there you go. For anybody that's interested, there is a playlist on the channel of our live stream, so you can go back and watch those. So as I was saying, Crowded Space Drones have the public safety side of things, which is, as you rightly say, how we actually first met, and it is a practical part of the future of drone use, both on the commercial and the hobby side of things. And in actual fact, this is the subject for us to talk about today, as per the title, about people wanting to work in the drone industry. And then the title is very much of how about the counter drone industry? And you have some exciting developments to talk about.
Well, I think one of the first things it says on our last live stream, which is when we launched Drone Masterclass and that sort of stuff, what we talked about after we did that was about how to make a business and all that sort of thing of it. And one of the points of that was you don't have to have a business yourself. You can work for a business and be involved in drones. And secondly was about the sort of wide spectrum that is out there of drone jobs. There's not, it's not 5 years ago where it was very much a case of one-man bands does a wide range of things because they had the drone specialism. The drone specialism, quite frankly, thanks to major companies like Parrot and DJI, is not as niched and nuanced now, where you have to have a lot of high-level detail. You can, with the A2 course and things, you can get into drones with a one-day course and be safe and lawful with that. So there's a wide spectrum out there of opportunities. Yes, there is a problem with drones in general. We don't typically talk about quantifying that because it depends on what sector you look at, Airports, obviously, a very high-profile one, but critical infrastructure is a problem.
Careful.
Cities, city centres have other types of problems. You have beaches and things in the summer and things like that. So there are problems out there with drones. I'm not saying it's to the level of what the Daily Mail, etc., would make out to scare people. equal as well, there's some really good proactive work going on behind the scenes. And the reason that's behind the scenes is because you can't prejudice a prosecution in the UK, i.e. by doing a lot of publicity on it, because you don't know who's on the jury. If it's a jury trial, you don't know who's going to be on that. You don't want to prejudice that.
Absolutely.
As with other recent events, the Attorney General's come out and said, don't talk about this on Twitter because it may not be prosecuted them. Whereas in America, you can get away with more in America, and they've got more rules about releasing police body cams of incidents and things like that.
Exactly.
So I think we get away without realizing there is a general hum underneath of stuff going on to deal with illegal drone use.
Yes.
We're not saying it's all malicious. A lot of the stuff we deal with, is just not incompetence, but sort of misinformed misadventure.
Exactly, and also it's worth pointing out that a police officer warns drone user or drone user given caution isn't exactly headline grabbing news, and a
lot of those aren't logged cautions or things, because obviously the police powers are going to change this year. It's going through, I think it's been through second reading. They will have more powers coming in. Those will be logged a lot more. At the moment, a verbal warning to a drone user may not even be logged. Some forces are really good and do log them, because you may find 20 officers be dealing with the same person giving them verbal warnings. We've seen that in some areas, like North Wales were really good, and they give out a piece of paper, and they've even tweeted about it. During, obviously, it's known we were involved with I'm a Celebrity, and during that we had people flying inappropriately and illegally, and they were given paper warnings, which some of them tweeted out and became news stories in their own because they tweeted them. But that's basically a piece of paper saying, look, don't do this again and everything will be fine. It's very similar. You get cannabis warnings and things now if you call it first time, and you have to educate people, because on the first offence, there's a lot better education about drones now than what you should and shouldn't do, but you have to give them the benefit of doubt for some first offences whereby they didn't know better. There is
a lot of things talked about in regards to counter UAS, counter drone operations, and I still have a fairly positive viewpoint from it, from the point of view that one of things like the operations, like in Yorkshire, the racecourse operation that we were talking about, and also the fact that if there is a counter drone operation in an area, it does give that opportunity to head off a problem before it becomes something which does have to be on the headlines, etc., and that type of thing, and it can be an education thing. So to me, I've always seen some of the positivity from that point of view, but there is still, of course, the underlying feeling within the community and within the drone hobby in particular that this isn't and shouldn't be an issue. That flying my Mini 2 across a town centre, etc., that type of thing, or wherever I want to fly it, really shouldn't be an issue. We're talking about a sub 250 gram drone, which isn't going to cause much trouble. But of course, the whole side of counter drone isn't just necessarily that you're worried about a drone hitting someone. Of course, there are privacy issues. There's things like you're talking about with the I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. I hate that show.
I love it.
I'm sure you do. But where there is, of course, there's a lot of commercial interest to protect and a lot of safety. I think
I would actually walk that back a bit in terms of that show, because actually you've got people who can't move from a very confined area. They can't get out of the way. So, a lot of the drone rules now are based upon, can someone get out of the way? Are they involved?
Yes.
And if somebody isn't involved and a drone is flown beyond visual line of sight above them, can the pilot reasonably assume they're safe if he has no involvement with those people? So that actually, from a safety point of view, it's very similar like the Big Brother house and things. You've got people who are in that bubble; they cannot leave that bubble. More so during COVID because of COVID rules.
Yes, exactly.
So you've got people who are stuck in that area, so they can't really leave there. So it's very much a safety thing over privacy.
Yes.
Or over media law and things like that, because
exactly
those people cannot get out of the way of that drone potentially if because they're in a confined area. So it's the same principle about quite a few other bits we do in terms of concerts. When you're in the front of a stage, you can't easily get out of the crush of a crowd and get out of the way of dense crowds easily. Therefore, that's why the law says you shouldn't be flying over on assemblies of people.
The issue I think that people have when they hear about rogue drone operators and they hear about the drone problem, and as you were alluding to before, most people think of the headline grabbing type of problems that have been actually quite rare. But really, what you're saying is that the drone problem isn't necessarily as easy and as simple to explain and to explain away as just the Gatwick drone incident and that type of thing, because of the myriad of issues you can have.
I mean, what I can say is that whenever we deploy out for these things, we are being deployed out to areas of increased risk of a drone instance. For example, events,
yes,
crowds, that sort of thing. We're not being deployed for, go and monitor a city centre, because that's covert surveillance at the end of the day. And, covert surveillance has very clear justification methods you have to comply with under things like RIPA. And there has to be a good reason why you would do it and things. So we're only being really deployed out where there's an enhanced level of risk in protecting people, or it may not be people, it could be animals and different things, various different things we get involved with. But it's not just because there may be drones is why we deploy. It's because either there's a historic problem with them. There's some sports in the UK that have a historic problem of recent times where we've had, over 10 drones fall out of the sky for various reasons.
Crikey.
Not really because of manufacturing flaws for the most part. That's an enhanced level of risk that needs to be dealt with. We're lucky that there hasn't been crowds, because these have fallen on areas where potentially crowds would have been or will be when we go back to that. So that's a risk to the crowd when they go back, especially now we're 2 months away from that happening. And we're deploying to areas where there are incidents or other reasons why you need to protect a certain area. So, for example, we're working with some coastal events that will be very popular this summer, whereby we believe, based on historic data of a new site they're going to, there will be problems with drones, because we know there's problems when events go to this area. It's a different type of event in that area. Probably will attract more drone flyers because of the nature of the event. Therefore, proactively, we're being deployed to that to support.
Excellent.
And all these are all part of a sort of multi-agency typical reason why we're there. So we're liaising with the local police and sort of, sometimes we're dealing with one at the moment where it's actually like 4 different police forces. None of these are just because people want to stop drones flying near them. We don't do that. We've been asked to do a very, very exceptionally well-known footballer to go to their house in France for 3 months and protect their villa. We declined that because it's not in the spirit of what we do. We do things, as you said. We have a outside of drone detection, even as well, with just drone use, we have a public safety aspect to what we do. We've always had that. We've been founded in that. That's why one of the reasons we're called crowded space drones, because of crowd management and things like that. So this is an add-on to that existing service to an extent, and it's not about going out to find people acting illegally. It's about protecting someone who maybe can't protect themselves.
Going back to the sort of the title and the sort of idea behind this particular video, talking about jobs in the drone industry and in particular counter drone jobs. So what kind of roles can somebody expect who would join crowded space drones under these new roles? What kind of job could they expect? What kind of role could they expect to be carrying out?
So as you said, we've announced drone detection operative jobs pretty much for major events. It's pretty much the focus of those roles. We provide 24/7 cover at some events. We're not going to say which event has what level of cover, obviously, because of various reasons.
Of course.
But the key thing is we have a panel of systems we use to detect drones. We deploy that temporarily. We don't build drone detect systems. We just use them. We use systems that the government have said, yeah, you should really be using this for this event and things like that. So we take advice on that. So it's really a case of we are the sort of for want of a better phrase, my team may not like this, but the sort of grunt to go and deliver the actual 24/7 coverage events.
Yes.
That is I think it's quite rewarding. We've dealt with things like we've stopped up to 4 kilos of drugs being flown into a festival on one flight.
Excellent.
That
Crikey.
drone was seized by police and
4
didn't fly again.
On one drone.
Yeah. Very small drone. And there are I'm laughing because there's several aspects to that service we provide. So sometimes we have to go find the pilot with police, and sometimes we don't.
Yes.
Most of the time we don't, and we try and avoid that now because we've had some interesting moments with meeting some some people in the local area around events. But it's fun, and the stories everyone gets to tell afterwards are great, and you do get a really good sense of feeling from it because one of the things I like the most is speaking to an operator who was doing their best and maybe just sort of was pushing the boundary. If someone's flying towards us but they haven't come into restricted airspace, we'll still go and speak to them just to make sure they're aware it exists.
Yes.
And those interactions have been fantastic.
Yep.
We've had some really, really good interactions with people around the UK where they just needed it's one of those things we talked before. One of the reasons we started Drone Masterclass, and I'm not trying to plug that, but it's that knowledge gap where you've got the statutory course or whatever, but you don't have the sort of social group of friends as much or whatever to get the little bits of knowledge that make you a better pilot rather than a qualified legal pilot. And I think having some interactions with people, like there was one at York, which I think we've talked about, whereby I spoke to someone who was maybe 17, 18, or maybe 19, was around that sort of age. They were flying, their family had bought a site, like a holiday park site near York, the race course. And he was just going up and he thought he had done everything. He had done Demares, he had registered an operator ID, but didn't realize the commercial nature. And I explained, well, look, you've got 6 months until this comes in where it's not, the commercial nature doesn't matter, but you have to be legal in that time period. And they immediately went on and found a course and booked it. It's those sort of interactions where you're like, well, yeah, not only have we not put them off flying, we've actually enabled them to fly legally and more.
Yes, exactly. Doing that. So exactly.
I do enjoy those. It's not just saying that. I really do enjoy it when you can enable people to use drones more, because we really love using drones. And that's what you need to enable, not criticize.
Exactly, and I know that it is something that, as a headline, counter drone jobs, sounds quite sort of clicky and quite sort of controversial almost. But you could argue that this type of work is protecting the hobby and protecting the industry from the point of view that these events are then being protected, and the education being the forefront of and the prevention rather than cure. Being the forefront of the tactic, obviously therefore means that you're going to have a situation where the hobby is protected in an ongoing basis. And actually you are doing some work within the drone industry which I think sounds pretty exciting. I think
it really is. Also you get to see behind the scenes at events and things and all that sort of side of things, so it's fun, because you're typically usually based behind the scenes. You're not in a public area of the event, or different things. Exactly. The key thing is there's a place for everything within drones. It's the same as, in driving terms. There's people who have to go operate the speed camera vans. It's or ANPR network. It's very similar. And I think everyone just has to accept that there is a place for that. There are people who do have drone detection jobs. Gatwick Airport has a good bunch of them, or at least did before the aviation industry got hit. Heathrow does have a whole bunch of them. Most airports have a whole drone detection thing. A lot of critical infrastructure does. This is not anything new. It's just a case of this is maybe a bit more public than what people have seen before.
Exactly. And I thought it would be an interesting video because you, as a company, Cradlespace Drones, were actually hiring people in these roles.
We've got another 12 jobs to announce like the next 5-6 days, something like that, and things. So we've potentially got a lot more than that coming. But the first thing is we get a lot of pilots apply for these jobs traditionally over the years and things. We have advertised loosely for this sort of thing before, but not formally. We've not labeled it. Pilots are not what we're looking for, primarily because a lot of them try and bring a drone with them and fly, and it's not the thing. That's the thing is the drone world is multifaceted with different roles and responsibilities. You wouldn't bring a safety spotter on a flight and say, right, you fly now.
Yes.
Potentially. So it's the same way. Drone detection is not, you don't need to be a pilot to know the drone laws.
Absolutely. And every job in drones isn't flying drones.
It's the same as aviation. Not every person who's involved in aviation flies the plane.
Exactly.
And I think that's the problem, is people who come with that job, I can fly as well, or I can get some. We've had some people who want to take photographs behind the scenes, or flying like this. And look, that's not. We're there.
That's Geeksvana's job.
Just because you're involved with the safety team of the event or the stadium or whatever, doesn't mean that automatically gives us a Bible to fly when we want.
Exactly.
It still has to be safe and legal. It doesn't matter who it is. And there's lots of events where we don't fly because it's just not safe to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it is. You can't. This is not a we control the airspace thing. This has to be managed because there's enhanced risk, and just because it's us flying doesn't mean the risk necessarily goes away.
No, exactly. Okay, so how can people find out about these jobs? How are you putting them out?
We've advertised them on some of our social media platforms and things like that. We're asking people to send a CV in for those jobs. We don't have like a formal form because it's a very there's not one type of person or one type of qualification or experience, because we train you fully for this.
Excellent.
One of the key things is just that you pass a police vetting, because you are counter-terrorism vetted for these. They are very sensitive roles. You're working directly with police officers.
Absolutely.
Some of whom are not frontline facing police officers involved in specialist tasks. So you obviously have to be vetted for it. We don't do the vetting ourselves. It's up to the police to do. These are not for everyone, because you have to have a good criminal record history, in terms of, not good one,
of course,
the elaborate one, but in terms of, you're going to be vetted by the police. These are working with some very sensitive police roles you're interfacing with, non-frontline facing police roles, which means that they want to vet you to a very high level, which means you have to have you can have speeding and things like that, but you can't have it really much other than that, especially nothing substantial, because they find out. We've had people before whereby we say, have you got anything done? No. They come back and you go, yeah, you've got this come up in vetting. Oh, well, I didn't think it really mattered. No, it does. A criminal record history that you would get if you can become a police officer. With your criminal record history, that's fine for this role.
You can take one of these roles.
But yeah, I don't want to emphasize that too much, because most people don't have
yes, indeed, but it is an important thing that is worth mentioning. So thank you, and even for those who are watching this from the point of view of, a lot of our viewers don't necessarily want a job in drones, but actually how you get these drones and the type of people that are going to be operating these kind of systems, it's interesting for them to know the background to that as well. So I will place a link or links in the description to Crowded Space Drones and their social media accounts, so you can keep an eye out for these jobs hitting, and good luck to anybody who does apply.
And even if you're not into drones, you still get to go to a lot of events.
Yeah, exactly.
It's ideal from that sort of gig economy where you just want to go and work events. As long as you have a good IT level of skill, then you can use our systems after our quite substantial training for you. You're working within a team. We've got a structure that there's support there. It's not like go and do that and be gone. You're in a sort of inclusive family that's going to help you through.
Off you trot.
Do what you're doing. So yeah, you don't even have to have any drone experience at all.
Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us on this one, Andrew. I really appreciate it. Another very quick plug to one of our awesome channel sponsors, which is Drone Masterclass, which of course Andrew is one of the faces of. If you're looking for your A2 CFC course or GVC course, there is a link in the description, so pop along there. As of recording this video, you can still grab your free t-shirt and printed ID card with every course that you book, which is an exciting little giveaway, and the prices are pretty good at the moment as well. The A2 CFC at the time of this going to press is currently, is it £79?
£79.99.
£79.99. So there you go. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you very much, sir. We will see you again very soon on Geeksvana.
Oh, you're still here. Good. Because I wanted to tell you something and no one else knows about it. And I don't really want anyone else to know about it. We don't want to make them jealous. You there, sat down watching this. You are super important to this channel. You're my favourite. Obviously that stays between us. Have a great day.